My name is Abigail Rowe, and this is my monument project. My presentation is going to be on the history of the Liberty Bell and its symbolic value amongst the American people in the past and in the present. And we're even going to talk about the usage of it in modern literature today and how it's changed from its symbolic meaning of the past. To start it off, the Liberty Bell was first ordered by Isaac Norris. He was a Speaker of the Pennsylvania Assembly in 1751, and he wanted a bell tower in order to commemorate the 50-year anniversary of William Penn's 1707 Charter of Privileges. It was designed by the Whitechapel Foundry in London, and although after the first test ring, it cracked, and the crack in the Liberty Bell is common knowledge for most Americans, but what is not known, which is super interesting, is that it was actually recasted twice by two local metal workers named John Pass and John Stowe, right in and after those two reparations, a small crack began to form once again, and by 1846, that crack was affecting its sound, which then led to the bell being repaired once again before George Washington's birthday. And since then, that's the last known edition of the Liberty Bell. This continuous rebirth is one of the biggest symbols of America besides the American flag. Can say a lot about the country, whether positive or negative. Some say that it highlights America's focus on presentation and image rather than legitimacy, while others say that it's a comment on America's resilience and fortitude. But I'll get into the symbolism of the bell in a minute. The Liberty Bell was a familiar symbol of the United States, whether it be freedom from national freedom, like from Britain and all the, colonial times, or also individual freedom, which was promised in America's Declaration, despite the still major struggles with slavery and women's rights. Similarly, as the years progressed, America faced new struggles, and after the Civil War, now Americans sought a symbol of unity because of the deep divide that was created. Obviously, the American flag, once again, became a huge symbol of unity, and so did the Liberty Bell. In fact, the Liberty Bell later would begin to travel across the country. It started in the 1800s, where the bell traveled through cities throughout the land, proclaiming liberty and inspiring the cause of freedom. But in 1915, this is really interesting, a new replica was created of the Liberty Bell called the Justice Bell, and it was used to promote the women's suffrage movement. And they chained a clapper to the side, but they kept it in silence until finally 1920, September 25th, they were celebrating the ratification of the 19th Amendment, and they rang it for as many states as there were in the United States at the time, which was really awesome. And I think that's a very, very cool fact about the Liberty Bell, or Justice Bell, that not a lot of people know. And I think it's very cool to see how it was affecting not only all of America, but a lot of individualized groups. In fact, today, a lot of groups or protesters come to Pennsylvania to announce their call to liberty to the bell and make a statement for that, and that is very awesome. Now, the Liberty Bell is quite a well-known monument of America, and with this renowned knowledge, people's interpretations or, symbolic value to it are bound to differ, especially in literature where everyone has a different opinion. So the Liberty Bell is an unsurprising constant motif in American literature. The bell comes up quite often and a lot of the time possesses unique ideas. For example, the poem The Liberty Bell by Edwina Reiser is a powerful statement on America's famous monument that focuses on the crack of the bell and its pitiful resignation. Edwina Reiser states that the bell itself didn't know that someday the liberty would crack. And further, that the bell that should have stayed solid and be rung every day quietly cries and feels for its nation as it sits on display. This is a common interpretation of the bell, that instead of a victorious symbol, it's a cry of slow defeat and a warning of our waning freedom in an unpredictable country. And it's an amazing, powerful poem. I really recommend that you read it because just a really great message, and it's very, very interesting to see. Similarly, the Liberty Bell is commonly used in modern song. And in fact, a song I enjoy, it's called The Last Words of a Shooting Star by Mitski. She mentions the Liberty Bell, and she has this new modernized meaning to the bell as opposed to the meaning of the past. She heartbreakingly sings, says, "And did you know the Liberty Bell is a replica, silently housed in its original walls, and while its dreams played music in the night, quietly it was told to believe." I love that song, and I think that line is so powerful, as she uses the Liberty Bell as a symbol of silence rather than the renowned interpretation of joyous freedom. In the song, it follows the last few minutes of this character's upcoming death as they go down in a plane crash. And in those minutes, she frets for her appearance and how she was perceived before she dies. She expresses her gratitude that her room is clean while reflecting on the terrible, miserable nights that she spent inside them. And she also, right before she dies, she reminisces on how she would ignore her partner's fake declarations of love and just continue on. And it's very interesting to see how the interpretation of the monument has changed throughout the years, and how interesting that it's very interesting to see the dramatic shift, let alone a change. While in history, I still believe the Liberty Bell holds powerful meanings of liberty. It is impossible to deny the deep symbolic message of the flaws of America. And just because American literature commonly focuses on the Liberty Bell's silence or its facade, it does not mean that it's a bad thing. In fact, the point of these monuments are to inspire conversation and to create connections. As history is very easy to memorize and for us to, absorb just as a fact, but it's hard to remember it as a literal thing. We can get caught up in dates and, the standstill facts, but it's important to remember the humanity of history. And monuments allow us to see and touch and to really feel history in a physical aspect. It allows us to look upon the same thing that people in history books would look upon and feel the same thing, or maybe different things. Both are very powerful, whether it's similar or contrasting ideas presented by these monuments, as they give us a physical connect to the past and a much needed metaphorical bridge. Personally, one of the best ways to observe the past is through reading autobiographies or personal literature from the past. And I believe that the most important fact of history is to preserve that humanity and preserve that humanity of history. Let it remain words on a page or a simple question on a test. I believe that as long as a monument is being used to honor history instead of it being used as a weak attempt to force it into our present, I agree with it. I believe that people get too wrapped up in the historical value of things and try to live it by it in the present day, when that's just illogical, especially if they don't want to admit that it's incredibly flawed. Because anything that we take from our history, America's very deep, dark history, it's going to be flawed, and that is okay. It's okay that it is flawed because it was made in the past. Monuments are here for reflection and a chance to connect and learn history, and in order to let us make our own opinions on it. I think the Liberty Bell is an awesome monument to study, and I think it's very, very interesting to see how it's changed, and I don't know, I think it's very awesome. Anyways, that was my presentation. I really hope you enjoyed. I think that it's an awesome topic, so it's definitely one of the coolest things about America. So thank you for listening. Goodbye.